So I want to go ahead and call us to order. And let me go ahead then at what time is it now? 6:05. All right, so we are called to order for our September 2022 GHRC meeting. And chairperson statements as follows. If any person is recording this meeting, you must notify the chairperson at this time. Philippe, does that include you recording this meeting? Thank you, Philippe. Okay, duly noted. And part B, no person shall address a meeting of a public body without the permission of the chairperson, and all persons shall, at the request of the chair, remain silent. If after clear warning from the chair, a person continues to disrupt the proceedings, the chair may order that person to withdraw from the meeting. And if the person does not withdraw, the chair may authorize a constable or other official to remove the person from the meeting. Okay, so that business said, done, and out of the way, we can get into the agenda. I had intended for Mackenzie Siraj, our newest member, to introduce herself. I had not heard she would not be at this meeting and don't know if she's just running late, but we'll make space for her to do an introduction if she should enter the meeting at some point. This gives us at the moment the number of 7 commissioners out of the full allotment of 9 as of the startup of this meeting, which is more than we've had in a while. And I'll ask Wid as clerk if you would go ahead and just do a roll call of who's here, just so we can make that official, if you wouldn't mind, Wid.
I see that Daniel is present. Daniel.
Here.
Wendy.
I'm here.
Well, we know when. Okay. Empress. Empress is here. Philippe.
Here.
Philippe is here. And Irene.
Here.
Okay, we have, of course, Aaron representing the mayor's office. And looks like we have 2 guests so far. I see Cody Griffin and Erica McGee logged on.
Present.
Just a point. Elizabeth Kirst called me. She's been trying to get on and hasn't been able to get on, but she's been trying to. I recommended that she reinstall Zoom, but she called me. So maybe, okay. Aaron, maybe you could reach out to her at some point and help her to be able to get on. This is the second time she couldn't get on.
Would she be able to call in somehow if she's not able to get on a computer?
I don't know. I didn't know how to give her direction of how to get on. So I can give you a phone number, Aaron. If you want a phone number to reach out to her, I can give you a phone number.
I can give you the phone number she can call in. It's also on the city website under the Human Rights Commission meeting on the city calendar.
I'll tell her she can call in.
Yeah, there's the link, and then it lists all the numbers based on location. But beyond that, I don't know how much help I could be because we don't have a waiting room set up, so there's no one waiting.
All right, well, hopefully, thank you for reaching back out to Elizabeth, Wendy, and let's see if she's able to find her way in, as we all have. Okay. All right, and Erica, welcome as a guest, and we welcome your participation. And
thank you so much.
At any point, we can't see you, but we know you're here.
Yeah, I have an 11-year-old granddaughter who put a sticker, a couple of stickers on my computer, and so I can't get the glue off, I guess. And
oh goodness.
Yes.
Wow.
Dark kids.
All right. Well, thanks for coming on. We can certainly hear you loud and clear. So
thank you so much.
Yes. So with that in mind, let me move on then to the next piece, which is we all welcome any visitors or guests who want to share and show up. That's always wonderful. Item number 6, do we have any announcements from any of the commissioners about any ongoing, upcoming, or new business before we get to new business, which is later, but any announcements that people want to share at this time? Okay, Philippe, yes, please. Let's put that under new business because it's actually an actionable item. Okay, and so we'll have space later in the meeting to focus on that. Yeah, so please come back to that. Anyone else with any kind of, yes, with an announcement, sure.
Well, it looks like we missed, I didn't catch it until just now. You didn't put on approving the minutes from the July meeting, so we need to do that.
Good point. I did not list that. Of course, we did not have an August meeting, so there are no minutes, but you're right. We certainly would have approved the minutes from the July meeting last month, and we did not. So thank you for pointing that out, Wid. And I don't know if people have hard copy or can go back to their electronic copy that Wid sent out from our meeting in July, but we do need to go ahead and formally approve those minutes. So does anyone have any emendations or? Yeah.
Well, email replies, sometimes I'll get responses from people saying, hey, you misspelled this or you left this out, and no one replied, so I assume that means people were okay.
All right, well, I think we should still go ahead and formally approve. But I'll put out a call if there are any suggestions that haven't come into WID previous to this moment. Does anyone have any emendations, any suggestions or changes? Okay, that being the case, then can we have a motion to formally approve the minutes and a second if it's forthcoming? Anyone?
I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you, Wendy. We have a second on that?
I second it.
Thank you, Irene. Okay, so any discussion? Last chance to enter in any discussion. All right, fair enough then. I think because we're in virtual space, we have to identify ourselves as we vote. So Whit, if you wouldn't mind just calling off, I'm sorry for the formalities, but it's necessary.
Daniel, do you approve?
I approve the July minutes. Yep.
Wendy?
I approve.
Philippe? I'm just going across as I see people on the screen. Irene?
Approve.
And Empress?
Approve.
And I approve as well.
All right, so we'll show that it's a unanimous approval of the minutes. Thank you for catching that. Whit, my bad for not listing that formally into the minutes. Okay, so back to announcements. Anyone else?
Yeah, my hand is up, Daniel.
Oh, okay, Wendy, please, and then Irene.
So I sent you the information and I'd like you to send it out to the entire commission. Maybe we should talk about this later also with the nature gap, but there's a class in social justice and nature that MJ Adams sent out to me, that if anyone's interested on the council, you'd have as much information as I have if you check the link out. And if Daniel, you would send that out at the end of this meeting, that would be great.
Happy to do so, Wendy. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. So that's a follow-up from the panel that Wendy and Aaron hosted back in June, on June 6th.
And Wid.
And Wid was there as well. I'm sorry. Yes.
No, and Wid was not there as well. Wid hosted it.
Oh, I didn't know that, Wid. Were you co-hosting on the panel? I know you were present, but I didn't know you were hosting.
Oh yeah, he was major on the team and definitely co-hosted.
Thank
I was
you.
the greeter. I was the Walmart greeter.
That's great. Well, Wid, my apologies. Wendy, you're correct to add that in. So noted, and we move on. Okay, so that's done. We're going to move on then, Aaron, to you. If you have any announcements or updates from the mayor's office over the last 2 months since early July when we last met. we'd love to hear from you at this time.
Thank you. Just one, as you probably have read, the mayor has asked the council for funding for an independent police department audit, which would work hand in hand with a task force to review policing in Greenfield. This is something that she's been working on with Councilor Bullock. So she is hoping that the council will provide funding for that in the months ahead.
Are you suggesting that from our $300 budget, the mayor is asking from the Human Rights Commission to take some of that money, or asking for us to make a contribution? I'm not quite sure what you meant.
No, I'm
No.
just passing that along as an information point.
I see. Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you. And we will.
Daniel, can I ask a question?
Go ahead, Wendy, and then we'll go to Irene. Mhm.
So, Aaron, do you know who is going to be choosing what that panel is or who that is?
My understanding is those are still that's still part of the discussions. So I don't think that's been finalized at this point.
You don't think the people have been finalized, or who has the decision-making power has been finalized?
I don't think the mechanism by which people would be appointed or named has been finalized.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, good. And we will recircle back to that issue as we go further into the agenda, item number 9. Irene, you've had a hand up and something to share with us, please?
Sure. Yeah, the Children's Advocacy Center is having their annual Hope and Healing Breakfast on Friday morning at 7:30 at GCC. And we have a fabulous guest speaker this year named Kate Price, who was recently written about in the Globe. She had experience as a child of being trafficked sexually by her parent. And it took many years of investigation for Kate to finally have it acknowledged that all of that was true. So she'll be speaking at a breakfast Friday morning at 7:30 at JCC. So it's a great breakfast anyways, but it's definitely worth coming out to hear Kate Price speak about her experience.
Thank you, Irene. Is that free and open to all, or is there?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
No admission fee?
No, we always ask for a donation at some point, but the breakfast is free.
Okay, so that's in the GCC Dining Commons, I presume?
Yes, at 7:30 to 9.
Excellent. Thank you. Good to know. And I assume you'll be there, and maybe others of
Yes.
us can find our
Sweet.
way in as well.
Yes.
Okay, excellent.
I'm sorry.
Okay, well-
I'm sorry. When was the breakfast?
This Friday, the 16th at 7:30 a.m. at GCC.
Okay, thank you so much.
Excellent. Any other announcements at this time? All right, so the item number 8, if you're following the agenda, this is in some ways our first meeting of quote the new year, in the sense of coming back after missing a month and people coming back to the school year, the academic year, and so on. And obviously we have a new collection of folks on the commission at this time, certainly different than last year at this time when 3 of us were on, those being Wendy, Wid, and myself. Everyone else has joined since then. And so it's an opportunity to re-up and refresh what we see to be our primary calling on the commission this year in terms of our goals, our priorities, and so on. As chair, I don't come in with a preset agenda in terms of what I or we should be working on. I see that as a collective process. And while we did do some significant work last year, it's a new year. I want to hope and presume that everyone did read my end of year report that I sent out just about a month ago. I do want to note for the record that that was, to my understanding, the first time a Greenfield commission or committee has ever done and sent forward an end of year annual report. And I did that in particular for a number of reasons, but also as an onboarding opportunity for the newer members, in this case being Philippe and Empress and Irene, and if she joins us, Mackenzie, so that you would have something to look at as a document and a testimonial to what we actually did and accomplished last year. That said, it's also, in a sense, water under the bridge. And I really do want to take some time tonight to hear from all of us as far as what you feel is most important from your perspective and from the perspective of the city that we want to move forward on in terms of initiatives, following up what we did last year, if at all, and try to create a year-long agenda of items that we want to work on. So I see our next period of time as that opportunity. And I hope each person can speak to that. And we'll start with you, Whit, please.
Well, since Aaron mentioned the task force, I would think that the HRC would request at least one commissioner serve in that task force.
Okay, so we can list that as something, we can even put that under new business for tonight. In fact, I do want to note for those of you who receive emails, there is a committee called the People's Budget of Greenfield. And they send out information on a very occasional basis to people who are interested. I maintain communication with them as chair so that I can know what's going on. They earlier had submitted that they were supporting the creation of a task force. And while we can talk about this under item number 9, I do want to say that they have withdrawn, as of their email to me yesterday, they have withdrawn their support of that task force moving forward. So we may want to think about where we align with that and if we align with that or not. But I hear what you're saying, Whit, that if we want to move forward with that, we should think about whether or not we want to have anyone, we want to offer anyone to serve on that task force if and when it moves forward. So thank you. We can list that. Philippe? Yes, and I can't quote it verbatim at the moment, but they were not in approval with the way the mayor is currently moving forward around her decision to reinstate the police chief back into his role. And so in a sense, I think that they would probably say that this was a vote of no confidence in that task force being able to do objective work moving forward. So I think it was an indication of their lack of support in the mayor's judgment on that. And this is not me opinionating. I think that that's what their letter was saying in terms of the withdrawal of their support because of their disagreement with the way the mayor is handling the situation with the police chief. Philippe, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you, Philippe. I appreciate the way in which this will which is a discussion the GH addressing them, in terms of the recent issues that have been coming across with the mayor and the police chief and so on. So we'll drill down deeper on that as far as how we want to move forward or in what way. Yes. But in terms of going ahead with other initiatives or trying to bring forth any particular goals or events, what else do people have in mind for the upcoming year? Back to you one more time, Philippe, and then we'll go to Irene. Looks that way. Okay. A question more out of curiosity, and thank you for that, Philippe. Does anyone know of any other organizations in Greenfield and or in Franklin County that are working on the issue of housing, affordable housing and rent control? Any other organizations or groups that are focusing time and attention on this issue?
Oh, excuse me. Excuse me.
Yes.
So I don't necessarily know of any other organizations, but I can tell you that presently I'm, excuse me, advocating for a program here in Greenfield. It's the Section 8 homeownership program. It allows voucher holders to purchase and own a home through a special program. And there are 113 voucher holders here in Greenfield. And not all of those voucher holders want to be homeowners, of course, but of the ones that do want to participate, they should be allowed to participate. Tom Guerin over at the Greenfield Housing Authority is refusing to participate in the program. He's saying that new entrants aren't allowed into the program because of actions of previous excuse me, participants in the program failing to maintain their home for whatever reason they lost it. And so he has placed a hard no and saying, no, he doesn't see us participating in the program anytime soon, and just flat out telling me no, excuse me, when asked. I was told to perhaps go to another area in the Commonwealth that participates in the program, that is in Holyoke. Holyoke is known to be the poorest city in the whole Commonwealth. Springfield is right behind it with the highest rate of depression in the Commonwealth. So for Mr. Guerin to tell me a protected, protected class member to essentially shut up and leave and go somewhere else is inappropriate. It's also discriminatory, and on its face is discriminatory, which is a crime. He absolutely has no authority to tell me or anyone else, another human being, to go and live someplace else. He does not have that authority at all, period. So again, the program is a Section 8 homeownership program. Marion Bullock actually wrote a My Turn article a few months back saying that she actually purchased her home on 179 Hope Street, the same voucher program. She recently, I believe it was last month, purchased another property not long ago. But she is a voucher holder, and that's how she said, she admitted herself that she purchased her home back in 2009 with this very program. When I questioned Mr. Guerin about that participating, because no participation to me means no participation. Doesn't make exceptions for others that were pretty much, I guess, grandfathered into the program, no means no. So that means at no level should there be any participation in the program. What?
Thank you, Erica. That's good information for us to know. I'm sure I surely didn't know about that.
You're not the only one. The mayor didn't know about it either when I brought it to her attention today during our meeting.
Go ahead, sorry.
I said, nor did the mayor, when I sat down with her today in our meeting, she had no idea about the program either.
You're only coming in sporadically, Erica. So I'm not able to hear everything that you just.
I said that it doesn't surprise me that you don't know about the program. Not many people do. Even the mayor didn't know about the program until I brought it to her attention today during a meeting that we had in her office today.
Well, this definitely speaks to Philippe's suggestion, and because if we raise this as an issue within the HRC for this next year, we're going to have to become more knowledgeable and more aware of both what is happening and what is not happening.
Right.
And also aware of situations such as yours, which we haven't commonly discussed in recent years. So let me get a reading from other people on this, or other commissioners, to see the level of commitment we would have to dig in a little bit deeper and learn more and be able to share more, perhaps in the way that we did last year with the nature gap and environmental justice and injustice, and to use that perhaps as a framework for doing some work with housing and affordable housing and Section 8 and such, as one of our key issues for the year ahead. How do people feel
Daniel?
about that? Yeah.
I guess before we even go there, I'm curious about what Erica might be thinking. She came to the Human Rights Commission. Was it to inform, which I appreciate, or was it to look for something else? So I'd like to, just before we go into your question, which I think is a very good one, I'd like to hear from her about what she would like from, what she thinks we might be able to do for her, or what her purpose was in coming.
So Daniel said that he didn't have knowledge of the program. So absolutely, it was my intention to inform and to educate on something. And I certainly have more to say when the time comes. I have a statement that I would like to read in reference to all of this that we're talking about. We're talking about human. That's the one word that we're all talking about. We're saying human. Excuse me. And that's what I want to talk about.
Well,
Thank you, Erica.
Thank you, Wendy and Erica. That, this is that opportunity perhaps to inform the Human Rights Commission and our looking at this particular issue. This is kind of a formative time for us moving into the year ahead.
Yes.
And if what you have to offer can help us to think about and direct us around this, I think we would all be interested to hear your statement. So, if you want to go ahead and read it into the record, please do.
Excuse me. The rights of every man are diminished when the rights of one man are threatened, said John F. Kennedy. Massachusetts civil rights laws, civil rights are the rights of all individuals to be treated as equals under the law, which includes freedom from discrimination in employment. Most civil rights laws are federal, including those encoded in the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Civil rights protections have come a long way since the nation's founding more than 200 years ago, when slavery thrived here in the Commonwealth, and women and people with disabilities were denied access to the most basic public amenities. But laws only matter when they're enforced. And with respect to civil rights violations, it is up to the aggrieved parties to assert their civil rights. To safeguard the human rights of every individual in the nation, the National Human Rights Commission was established on October 12th, 1993. NHRC is an independent statutory body constituted under the Protection of Human Rights 1993 as amended by the Protection of Human Rights Amendment Act 2006. The NHRC is the watchdog of human rights in the country, i.e. the rights related to life, liberty, equality, and dignity of the individual guaranteed by the Massachusetts Constitution. Human rights are inherent to all human beings, regardless of race, gender, nationality, ethnicity, color of skin, language, religion, sexual preference, and other status. These rights are entitled to all humans without racism and discrimination. The NHRC has the power to interfere in any judicial proceedings involving any allegation of violation of human rights. It can review the protections provided for in the Massachusetts Constitution or any other human rights protection legislation and can recommend effective remedial steps. NHRC also has the powers of a civil court and can grant interim relief. It also has the authority to recommend payment of compensation or damages, like in Officer Buchanan's case. It can recommend to both central and state governments to take suitable steps to prevent the violation of human rights that happen here in Greenfield by people like the police chief. That's the end of my statement. Thank you.
Erica, thank you for sharing that with us and reading it into the record. So this becomes a discussion for us. Irene, do you want to follow up, please?
Yeah, I just want to say, I liked where Philippe was going with us being gatherers of information and putting facts out there for people to decide about things. I mean, it's only my second meeting, but it feels a little bit to me like when I come to the meetings, somebody throws out an idea and then people run with it. And I just wonder if there's like a issue committee or some type of committee where people can get together and look at, 5 prominent issues and decide what we're going to tackle this year instead of, it just feels like people can bring forth the meeting and all these issues are so important, but it doesn't feel like I don't know if the committee can tackle all of them well and put forth good, solid information. So I just wonder what process we could use to really, as a group, come up with some cohesive plan for the year.
I think that's personally, I think that's a really good point. And we haven't really organized ourselves around that in the past. And so rather than just, I think what you're suggesting is rather than just being driven by whatever gets put up, it would be good to be able to perhaps prioritize according to the will of the group. But I think what we're trying to do is still get ideas out before we decide on what we do. What are the ideas? And then I think we'll have to figure out, as you're suggesting, how do we go forward? But right now, this is the only idea that's come forth as an active possibility. I think we're just looking at possibilities right now, Irene, as opposed to definitive decisions that we will work on this. I just want to know where people are at with what they're thinking is and their work in the community is telling them. And to that end, the issue around housing has been discussed in years past, but we haven't really had a focused thrust as far as what we could do about it or with it. But I'm only listing that as one of other possible ideas that we could be working on.
Like previous winters, ServiceNet ran a homeless shelter on Wells Street, but they're not doing that this year. They are not doing that shelter. So I don't know where as a community we think everyone's going to go, but it will not be the ServiceNet shelter because they're not running it.
Can I make a suggestion?
Who's
Wendy.
speaking? Wendy? Yes, Wendy, please.
Because there are definitely people around that are working on this issue, and MJ Adams is one of them that it's near and dear to their heart. I wonder if it might make sense as we go through what are some of the ideas to have somebody who's actually working in the field come in, tell us what's going on, and see if they have an idea of how the Human Rights Commission might be of service to that intention of ending homelessness.
Do you know in particular what MJ and whatever group she's working with, what they're actually doing, Wendy?
I do not, but I know she's very passionate about the issue. I also know Empress is very passionate about the issue. So I'm wondering if she's got anything else to contribute. But I know MJ, I'm sure MJ would be happy to come and talk about what she knows, and she knows an awful lot.
Mhm. That would be a very proactive way of teaching us more about this and helping us to move forward if we choose to. So we can take that under advisement. Philippe, and then Irene again.
This is probably just a committee question, being that I'm new and I apologize for that. But say we did rent control. What is the role of this committee? Is it to tell the town how to do rent control, or is it to make rent control more fair? Like, what is our role in any of these issues? Is it to make recommendations to the mayor? Is it to make information out to the public? I guess I don't quite understand my role, so that's probably why I'm struggling.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. And I mean, I can respond, but others can also respond. My thought is that one of our primary roles is as an educative body for the community, which is to say, as has been said, the gathering of information and then the sharing out of it as a way to inform the community, A, as to what's happening, B, as to what actions people can take. We have at best recommending, I wouldn't even call it power, but we can offer recommendations, but we don't have any teeth as far as power to make things happen. That happens either through the city council or through the mayor. But insofar as we are able to collect and share information, if you believe, as Paulo Freire said, that knowledge is power, then we are helping to empower the community to know what's going on and what's happening and what's available, so that individuals and organizations in our community can take more direct action. I don't know if that answers your question fully, and people
It's
might have
helpful, thank you.
that. Whit, I saw a hand up. Thank you, Irene. Whit?
And specifically from the human rights angle, we're not just here for the information warehouse, but with the human rights angle to it.
Right. Philippe, you had a hand up, and Wendy is an old timer with us now in your third year. I wonder if there's anything you would like to add to what I said, but Philippe first. Okay.
I do have a question.
Yes, Erica, please.
I'm very sincere when I'm asking this question. I heard Ms. Goodman just a moment ago saying that the location on Well Street is not going to be open this winter for these people, for the homeless people. And I would recall seeing an article either earlier today or yesterday about the Armory going to auction.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't that building, that property be secured by the town for housing, for situations like this? And that's, so I'm curious to know, like.
Erica?
Yes.
Daniel, can I speak? It's Wendy.
Yeah, Wendy, go ahead. Sure.
I had the same initial response when I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
And what I know is that, like, the bank building is very problematic. They can't figure out what to do with it because of the building codes. I don't know that the Armory is something that they could convert into housing. but I had the same question. What I've learned is that it's much more complex than we think because of building codes and housing laws.
So I'm from, when I came to when I came to Massachusetts in 2016, I lived in the Berkshires for 4 years. They have it's a former mill. It's Clark Biscuit. That was the name of the company that it used to be. So it was a biscuit cracker company. And they have converted that structure into affordable housing units. So I don't know anything about the Armory or how it's set up, but certainly it makes sense to me that if they can redo a factory where they made biscuits and crackers, that surely they can certainly reconstruct the Armory. I mean, I don't know. This was
So here's where I would go. Aaron? Hello,
Yes.
Aaron?
Yep.
You around? There you are. So I wonder if the mayor has asked that question to see what other uses the Armory could have and go from there. Because Eric has got, it's being raised. It was raised in my head too. And Erica, thank you for bringing it forward. Here's an opportunity to know if that was even a question raised and what the answers were once it was looked at.
Based on a piece in the Recorder, I think the one you mentioned, the city did look into potentially taking ownership of the building, but considering that the city already has one building that it's in the process of trying to redevelop, it just didn't seem to work out in terms of the cost of renovating such a facility. And right now it's
Aaron,
the state that owns it.
So I'm gonna push you on this because that I understand that from what I imagine is the mayor's point of view, which we'll get into later. The question is, was it considered to see if the Armory could easily be recreated into housing units?
I don't know the answer to that.
Can we find that out? Because I think that's the right question to be asking.
Not only that, this alleged skate thing that's coming behind the Wilson's building. Yeah, that's not going to have any use during the wintertime. Nobody's going to be able to use that during the winter, but those people certainly need shelter during the winter.
I think the question then that I hear Wendy raising to Aaron is that as a commission, a public city commission, we're requesting information to find out if that was looked into by the city as a possibility. Aaron said that he didn't know the answer to that. And so the question is, can we follow up and ask through Aaron, ask the mayor to give us a response as to whether or not that was researched before it was set up to go into auction.
The town doesn't own the building, though.
I'm sorry?
The town doesn't own the building. The state owns the building. So it would be the state who would be looking to people to renovate or to sell the building. It wouldn't be the city of Greenfield.
I think the question still holds. Did the city of Greenfield look into that possibility
of purchasing the building to renovate it?
Well, if a purchase is necessary. Yeah,
Aaron kind of answered the question. The mayor early on, when the Armory first came up, the mayor made a statement and said she was interested in using it for low-income housing. She got a lot of razz about it. People, and now after they looked at it, it seems that Aaron just said it sounds like it was cost prohibitive. It's nice to say, oh, the Armory could be a homeless shelter. Yeah, it could if you have $15 million to put into it, but that takes grant money. That takes, a 2 or 3 year process to even get money up front to even think about it. It's not something we just can snap our finger and say, Mayor, make the Armory a homeless shelter or low income housing and have it ready for tomorrow. It's not going to happen.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, Wood, because for the 2023 budget, there is there are no plans to even apply for block grants at all, period. There's no plan for it. There's an ability to raise capital, to ask for funding for this community, and it's not even, they're not even trying. In order to get, you gotta apply for a grant.
Okay. Let's have a raise of hands again so I can see that, because I want to get everyone who has something to say. Is there anyone who has not spoken who I've missed? Wendy, I see a hand up there from you, so, and then I see from Philippe as well. Okay, so let's take it. Empress, you haven't spoken yet, so let's have you go first, okay?
Okay, so on the issue about the homeless shelter on Wells Street, I went to a meeting and spoke with the director of ServiceNet, Erica, who was the director of the homeless shelter a couple months ago, along with Bill Benson. And there's contractors and subcontractors who's basically looking into taking over that property. I have another meeting coming up with Erica in the next couple weeks as far as seeing where that is. So it's not like they was just looking, because one of the things that they said is that they're not going to put the people that's living there out on the street. So there's other people who's actually looking into purchase that facility already through contracts and subcontracts already. So I'm on, you know, like I said, there's other information out there that I've already heard. And like I said, you know, before we jump to conclusions, you know, at least you'll be more factual, because like I said, I spoke with the director of ServiceNet herself.
Yes,
And I'm sat down and had a meeting with her. And one of the things that they said is nobody's going to be out on the street.
Okay. That's helpful information and worthy of follow-up. Thank you for that. And I just want to note, Empress, that when you joined us, you brought a lot of energy to this issue as well. So it's good to hear that you're following up on that. Wendy and then Philippe.
Actually, let Philippe go first. I feel like I've spoken a fair amount.
Fair enough. Philippe, would you like to take on next? Mhm. Those feel to me, Philippe, like reasonable questions. And I think it would be helpful to know from the mayor what if there's a plan, and if so, what that plan is going forward in terms of implementation, because I don't know that any of us know, and we should, if we want to take on this project or take this on as one of our concerns for the year, it would be helpful to have a statement from her going forward. So thank you for that. Wendy, would you now like to speak, and then back to Empress?
Thank you, Daniel. I appreciate it. So
Sure.
along the same lines, Felipe, I think that we should halt on this conversation at this point. I think Erica raised some really great points, and I think that the question is really large. We are talking about how do people get housing, and I think that there is so much going on in town and in Franklin County, and actually in Western Mass, that I think it warrants a little bit of research from people that are very passionate about it, to see what else is going on, to maybe invite MJ only because I know right here and right now that she's very involved, and learn some more about it, more in terms of how we can be helpful. I don't know if people haven't already gone to the mayor and if there's not already part of that, but I think that it behooves us to enter as partners that are saying, we would like to help on this issue. How can we help? Please educate us, as opposed to saying, well, we're going to go in and find out this and find out that. So I think that I think it's a very important issue. I see that there's energy for it. And I think that there should be some research of who do we need to talk to, who's going on, and have some invitations go out for the next meeting so that people can get a better handle on what the housing issues are and how we truly, as an HRC that's really powerless, can be helpful. That's my statement. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you for that. It helps to move us forward. And now we'll hear again from Empress.
And to back up with Wendy, would you like for me to see if the director of ServiceNet, the director of the shelter could come to the next meeting? If you're gonna get MJ to have, so you could hear, we could have MJ and Erica at the same time so we could get the full picture of what's going on.
Can I make a suggestion? Empress, I think that's a great offering. I wonder if there can be, and I wouldn't even say a subcommittee because that puts us into all other kinds of issues. But if there can be, if you wanted to take it on, or you and Felipe wanted to take it on, to do a little bit of research and invite the people that you find are appropriate, that are working in housing and can share diverse perspectives. And maybe the mayor is one of those, or maybe Aaron does that research. But I guess I would personally shy away from, oh, should we do this one? Should we do that one? And really delegate that decision to some folks. And then you could talk to Daniel about who should be invited. That's my suggestion. And I thank you for stepping up.
I'm sorry, just real quick. So I'm aware that there is a needs assessment scheduled for the Housing Authority, for Greenfield's Housing Authority, that's supposed to take place. It said fall of 2022. I'm not really sure when they consider fall, but to me, the fall has started. So anywhere from now to, I guess, I don't know, November is scheduled to have this needs meeting. Yeah.
That's good information. Thank you, Erica. So Philippe, back to you. I'm just watching hands go up. So, yeah.
The biggest problem with that, Felipe, is that puts us into November before we're even looking at the issue.
So what I'd like to just offer, and then we'll come back to you, Empress, I promise, is I'm concerned about that same issue, Wendy, which is we're now in middle of September. We don't meet again, and we're going to have to change our date, obviously, in October because of Indigenous Peoples Weekend, and that being a national holiday, our next meeting. So we're probably going to have to move it to a week later. And so then we're in, mid to later October. And I think we have to find a way to really expedite whatever process we have forward so that we're not caught, so to speak, with our pants down and it's already, we're looking at first frost. So my suggestion would be that we do both, which is I would be happy to have us invite the mayor to speak with us and also other folks as well, and get a sense of what the city through the mayor is thinking about. And then also what other folks are thinking about, Erica at ServiceNet and MJ Adams through her work and so on, and really just do a deep drill down next month to see what we can learn and what can be done, and to highlight the importance of it, and also to make a splash to get other people within the community to get into our meeting and listen and participate and engage, because we don't want to be in December asking these questions. Okay, so Empress and then Irene, I see your hand as well.
Well, you actually took the words out of my mouth, because I was going to say, like he was saying, that's going to lead us into October and it starts to get cold. And there's no way that we can have like a special meeting because of these special circumstances before October. If we get everybody together instead of waiting out. I mean, that's the thing, is waiting a month is so long and the temperature is going to change. So there isn't something we can do before then.
That is up to us. I'll just say we have the right to schedule our own meetings. And as long as we provide 48 hours notice with the open meeting law and so on, and we can get on the city's Zoom line, just to respond to that question, Empress, we've done that before and we can certainly do it again. And we would just have to take the time at this meeting to sort through some possible dates if we went in that direction. Irene, you had a hand up, so.
Yeah,
thank you.
I was just going to offer Empress that I'd be happy to help you make some phone calls or talk to some people about this. Because some of the things I'm hearing is a little different than you're hearing. So I think it'd be good to compare notes, and I'd be happy to help you.
Well, that, and I want to take note that as Wendy, as we've learned from hard experience, we run into lots of difficulties when we start formalizing subcommittees.
Yeah.
Because they are subject to the same OMLs that we are as a whole body. So I'm going to suggest on this so that we have mobility and fluidity, that we avoid a subcommittee designation.
Yep.
And simply ask the two of you, if everyone agrees to this, and you're willing to take this on, not as a subcommittee, but out of interest. And if we do go forward with a meeting in less than 5 weeks, then we would have some responses and be able to move forward more quickly. And I think we would all be in favor of that, because this is not a situation that can wait for, months and months. So I'm delighted to see that maybe the two of you would be willing to take that on. Two people can do a great job with this and move quickly. And if there's agreement. And so maybe we need to dispense with the idea of more globalizing of a full year agenda in favor of doing more of a boil down on this particular topic, because it is so time sensitive and because it affects so many people in our city.
I'm available. And Queen.
Daniel,
Yeah, who's Wendy? Is that you?
yeah, I've had my
Okay.
hand up for a little while, and I know it's hard to see. I think this is really important, and I totally support having another meeting that in between that is focused on housing, and really almost having a panel kind of discussion is what is occurring to me as that gets talked about. And I don't think that precludes continuing the conversation of what other things might the HRC want to be involved in this year. I think housing is a really big deal, and that's really important. And there might be other things that people are really interested in working. So I wouldn't want to see us stop that conversation. The nature gap is one, to be, to be transparent. But
Yeah,
there
that's
may
on
be
the
others.
agenda for later on, as you know.
Right. So there are other things that we're looking at, especially this year. There's the Lunt property and environmental justice and how that plays out. And do we want to take a stand on that? So there are lots of other things, not to lessen the importance of housing, but to me, it feels like we've got a plan for how to proceed with that. And after next meeting, whether it be before October or in October, we'll have much more information for people to decide if they want to pursue and how they want to pursue housing as a human rights issue.
Thank you, Wendy. And let me suggest, after you've spoken, if you could take your hand down, because if it's up there constantly, I don't know if you have something new to say or not. Thank you.
I did. I took it down before and then I put it back up, but it wasn't quick enough for you to see. Thank you.
All
It's
right.
down now.
All right, appreciate it. So Philippe, I see your hand, and I think Irene, not Irene, Empress, you had a hand up too. So Philippe and then Empress. Mm-hmm. Right. Aaron, what's your reading on that in terms of communication back and forth?
You can request information and can give you a response, but when you get into deliberations, that is where you run afoul of the open meeting law.
Right. So this would be us directing Aaron to ask questions. He can get back to us, but we can't respond back and forth to him or to each other. So that's information sharing only, as I just understood you to say, Aaron. And Wendy, with respect to what you just said before I turn it over to Empress, I just want to make sure that we have actionable steps here, that we don't get so drawn off into a discussion, one thing after another, that nothing happens. So I'm hearing that people really feel deeply focused and committed to something happening in a very timely way. And I just want to capture that now before we move forward and talk about other things.
I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay, so good. So we're approaching that point of actually taking some steps, whether it's directing Aaron or calling a second in-between meeting or whatever it is. And that's what's important to me. That said, you've been patient, Empress, and I want to recognize your hand, if you would.
Well, actually, I had another item on the agenda that I want to focus on. So you could go back to talking about.
Okay.
Then I
All
could
right.
go back to what I say.
Thank you. And we will come back to whatever it is you wanted to focus on. So Wendy, do you want to go ahead now, having had this discussion?
Yes, thank
And
you.
make a motion for us? For
I do.
consideration?
And before I make it, my caveat would be in response to Philip wanting to get the mayor's input first, is that I think that one thing that we can really provide this community is a panel discussion. That the mayor would say what we're already doing, and Empress and her people, that Irene and Erica that are already really interested can tap in on the people in town, and there can be some real information exchange. So based on that perspective, I make a motion that we empower, or whatever the appropriate word is, ask Empress and Irene and whatever other cohorts they decide to do, to pull together some kind of a panel discussion between now and the next meeting, and perhaps at the next meeting, that addresses what is going on in the housing community with housing issues and how the HRC might be able to be of service in moving it forward.
I
Oh,
third it.
so we've got a motion and a second.
And a
so
third.
Well, all right, that may obviate the need for more discussion, but I have to ask for it. Is there any discussion on the motion that Wendy made before we move to a vote, since it's been seconded? Any discussion? Well, Philippe, yes. Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
Well, back to the homeless situation. I'm sorry. Is this going to be hybrid, or is it going to be at City Hall? If it's, how will we do it?
Right.
Okay.
We
Okay.
could, if that's what we choose to do. I believe, and Wendy and Wig can speak to this as well as Aaron from June, that we do have a blueprint for this. I don't know how well it worked, but we could do the hybrid between Zoom as opposed to WebEx, which we used in June. We could use Zoom and in person if that's what we choose to do, so that we can maximize the opportunity to get people in person or online. I think we would need to agree on that so that we can be asking, but that also limits us as far as a date. I would like to suggest as part a friendly amendment to Wendy's motion that we take it a little further and that we hand over our next date of our meeting so that we can all be there. I'm going to hope that that meeting would take place a week later than planned, which would be Monday, October 17th, giving us 5 weeks to put that together. Because our meeting on the 10th would not happen because of Indigenous Peoples Weekend and that being a national and state holiday.
The
So
17th is a good number. That's a good number. I've
That's
heard
good.
it twice already during the meeting. Yeah, that's a good day.
Daniel, I would,
Yes,
so
Wendy.
How do I reject a friendly amendment?
You do
And
what
let me
you
tell you
said.
why. Let me
Well,
tell you why.
speak to
I
it.
wouldn't want to hamstring them, that if they find it and they can pull it off in 2 weeks, that they should do it. So that I would be happy to designate whatever they need. And if they need the next meeting, that works. But I wouldn't want to designate, because that says then that they're waiting until October, the end of October, to have their meeting, and they might be able to pull it off quicker.
Okay, thank you.
I think that would be miraculous, but I can also see that it's possible.
Let's go to Irene and then Empress. Irene? Yes, put yourself in.
Okay, just two caveats. One, I am away the little first part of October, so October 5th. Just to throw that out there. And I do have to leave the meeting in about 10 minutes. But other than that, I'm good for everything.
Okay, thank
And-
you.
yeah.
Thank you. We'll try to keep moving forward, and we'll be sorry to lose you for the rest of the evening, but we'll move on. Empress, back to you.
Okay, and to piggyback on what Wendy said, the panel discussion that I was speaking about was definitely not going to be October 17th for the next meeting. I was pushing for something before October 17th. It's going to be a hustle for time, but we can do it, you know, to get everybody together and put a panel discussion. And I would rather me and Irene get together and coordinate our schedules, and then we could basically pick a time frame versus just doing it right now. So at least we could put our, put our brain work together and know who's going to be on the list and the topics, and then we could start getting dates together as far as Irene's schedule, my schedule, and then we could start basically putting something together that this is going to be the panel discussion. But I was definitely shooting for before October 17th, because around October it starts getting cold.
And this is why they're called friendly amendments, Wendy, because they're
Right.
done in a friendly
So-
way, not to stoke any division or divisiveness. That was not the intention, just to keep things moving and hopping along.
Right. So
So,
I have another comment. One
Well,
other
no,
quick
before you
comment.
make that comment, I need to withdraw my friendly amendment. We need to do these things in order, Wendy. So take a deep breath and allow that to happen, okay? Just relax.
Well done, Daniel.
Well, I need to just know that you're with me and not just powering ahead on your own.
No, I'm not.
Okay? Oh, well, it sounds like you are. So just take a deep breath. Okay. There are no other hands up at the moment. So Wendy, back to you now.
I was only going to advise Empress that she pulled together the last work at John Zahn Center, and they're booked, that before you do anything, you might want to find what the availability dates are. That's all.
Another suggestion on that is that knowing how heavily John John is booked, usually 3 months in advance, if it's difficult to get a date with them, give up on doing it in person and let's just go by Zoom. Because you may well find that they have no nights available between now and after Thanksgiving. And in which case, we should not give up on doing something. We should just do it virtually instead. So we have to take a vote on this just to move forward.
One more comment, Daniel. I'm sorry. One more comment on that. I'm sorry, just
Okay.
to extend that. I wonder, Aaron, would the courthouse be available if John Zahn wasn't?
Possibly. There's also a calendar of events for the meeting room in City Hall, but depending on the date, I can certainly look.
Okay. So they just have different options. Great. Thank you.
The issue around City Hall, of course, is that it is not handicap accessible.
Understand.
So I would not be in favor of using City Hall by any stretch. I think the Human Rights Commission to pick an inaccessible room is a very bad optic and a very bad ethic. So I think we should avoid that at all costs.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I have a question. I have a question just because I'm a stone super. And I wanted to know if that location is qualified to have such a meeting.
Well, people are not allowed in the basement of the hall of the church, the Universalist Church, at this time. So I'm not sure if you're meaning the actual sanctuary itself.
No.
Oh, yeah, no, the basement is not available publicly. So that wouldn't be an option.
No, I'm not talking about the basement. I'm talking about the area where like they do the food distribution and stuff. There's an office in there with a table big enough for several people to sit and have a meeting. I'll ask Chef Kirsten Levitt if that's a possibility.
I suppose, I was thinking that we would have many more people than could sit there, but if you want to pursue that and get back to Empress and Irene on that, I would imagine that they would be amenable to that.
Heard that. Thank you.
All right. All right. So I have to bring this to, are we all in agreement that this is how we'll move forward? Basically empowering Irene and Empress to take this on and report back to us as soon as they have something workable, and then we'll go from there.
Yes.
That anyone not in favor of that? We've got 5 of us now who are on the commission. We still have barely, we have a bare number of people to do a quorum at this point. So does that all sound good to you, Empress, as the one remaining person who's going to take that on, who's present?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely. It definitely sounds good.
Excellent. All right. So let's see, let's maybe do a time check. It's 7:15. I want to give 10 more minutes at this point, and then I do want to be able to move on to other items in the agenda. But since we have an agreement as far as moving forward on this item, let's open up the conversation again and see if there are other topics or issues that people would like to discuss, knowing that we're coming around, and maybe this is where we bring in the environmental justice nature gap, which is item number 10 as part of this. So, okay, back to you, Empress. Yep.
Okay, so like I was saying, one of the things that, and I don't know if how we could do it, but something that is going on right now is bullying and anti-discrimination in the schools. And I was wondering, I think that would be a great project for the Human Rights Commission to take on, especially for the young people. But I didn't know, is that something that we would coordinate with the school committee, or will we find focal points? Because the increase of bullying lately, especially now since school has started, the amount of young people that's getting bullied and jumped and beat up in just the past week is an atrocious. So I'm just like, that's definitely something that is definitely a human rights problem. And I just think, that's something else that we could definitely focus on, especially for the younger citizens that's still in school.
Empress, thank you. Let me respond on behalf of Wendy and myself, who were a subcommittee on this last year. We met several times with the superintendent of schools and her associate superintendent. We attended school board meetings on a monthly basis for quite some time. And we attempted to be of service to the schools in any way possible. Not a whole lot came of that as far as actionable items, but we did forge a relationship with Christine and her assistant, whose name I do not remember, unfortunately. And there was never any formal action taken other than to form a subcommittee that reported back to the full body on a regular basis. So I hear you saying that that you feel that would be important, in a sense, to reestablish whoever's interested from the larger commission to continue to develop that relationship and make ourselves available as a public commission to support anti-bullying and anti-racism in the schools. Is that the essence of what you're suggesting?
That's definitely what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. So, Wendy, is there anything you would want to add to what I just said based on our work last year on that subcommittee?
No, just that we're aware that the superintendent is very aware of the issue, and we did raise, and I made the connection with the folks at, what are they called now? They were the Mediation and Training Collaborative. I can't, do you know their name now, Daniel?
Oh, I know it used to be TMTC, but it's the
Yeah.
next iteration.
Anyway, they're doing this work and it's, we just missed having an August meeting before school started. But I would say that this is right in line and that I think Christopher, who's in charge of doing this kind of work at that organization, was ready to pull in another superintendent. And I think that if you want to pursue that at this point, it's, it just means a phone call of setting up a meeting and pursuing to see what's happening. And I guess I would recommend one meeting to see what's going on and how are they doing, because they've made lots of changes already. And to propose another meeting where Christopher can come in and talk about the work that he has done in the schools in terms of restorative justice, peer mediation, and anti-bullying.
Wendy, are you suggesting that he speak to us as a commission? Christopher, come to one of our meetings to do that, or?
No, that wasn't my suggestion, but I
I'm
think that
asking for
you certainly, if
clarification.
people were interested in that, that certainly could be something that he would be, I would imagine he'd be delighted to do if he was invited to do it. But I think it's an interesting idea. It wasn't mine.
I was just wanting to
But
clarify what you were suggesting.
no, I was suggesting that that would be an appropriate meeting with the superintendent after we check in and see what things are going on, because we've been out of touch for a while.
Right. So Empress, I thank you, Wendy. I would like to suggest, and I'm happy to do this with you, having spent some time last year building a relationship myself with the superintendent, is if you would like to meet with the superintendent and me to get a sense from her of what they've done over the past 3 months. I think Wendy and I met with her in late June during the last week of school, but nothing in the 2.5 months since then. I'd be happy to do that with you. I don't know if you would be interested, Wendy, in moving on that, or if you'd step away from that, but I'm happy to do that with you as a first step, Empress, and help you to build a connection with the superintendent as well. I think we could easily set that up, and I can be in touch with Christine DeBarge tomorrow to see about that possibility of scoring another meeting. Would that be helpful?
Okay. Yes, and I really appreciate it.
Okay, and Wendy, let me follow up and see if you're at all interested in continuing to be part of that or not.
What I would do, what I would commit to at this point is to go to the next meeting and raise the question of if she wanted to meet with Christopher. I would recontact Christopher before that meeting and get clear on what he would be proposing to come in and meet with her to see if that would be a next step. And Empress, just so that you know, this is an agency that's been in Greenfield for, oh my God, over 20 years. That has done mediation, that has brought mediation in all kinds of different environments and contexts.
You remember you remember the name of the org? You still don't remember the name, Wendy?
They've got a new name, and Daniel, we don't have it in the minutes, and Daniel can send it out. I don't have it at this point. I might even have it by the end of the meeting for you. Okay, but they would be an entry point to see what's going on. They're not the only game in town, but they're a very appropriate first step. And given other announcements that'll come forward, you'll understand why that would be my limit. But I would certainly want to connect the right people up, because I am right with you. I think that that is a very appropriate place. I think there are other ways also. I think that we could develop a human rights commission in the school.
That's something that we did mention that. All right, so I think that the actionable step here, with your agreement, Empress, is that I will contact the superintendent. I don't know if you have holds on your time. That would be something to consider, because I know you're working. I don't know if it's full time when you're in school, but
Yeah.
you could.
Yeah, but because I do so much community work with my job, my schedule is very flexible, so I could bend and go as I need to. So that's never an issue.
Okay, all right. Well, I'll just see when she's available next. And I will book that time in and I'll get back to you as far as trying to move that ahead. And you and I can certainly meet with her and her assistant. And then we will be informed perhaps to meet with Chris and whatever the next iteration of the mediation and training collaborative is that he represents, as Wendy suggested.
And like I said, I'd like to be included in that next meeting. Okay, Daniel?
With Christine and Empress and I?
Yes.
Okay, and Wendy. Okay. All
And
right.
then the next meeting, probably not, but that next meeting, yes. Thank you.
All right, I will certainly try to set something like that up tomorrow for the
Great,
for the
thanks.
5 of us. Excellent. All right, well, we'll continue on this item, but as the time is now 7:25, we still have a few other pieces that I'd like to get to tonight. And the next one has to do with, oh, I'm having trouble seeing that in this light. Okay, my apologies. And not an intentional oversight, please. Philippe, yes, please. And it was important, so thank you. And I will try to lighten my, let me lighten my screen so I can see these hands as they come up. Okay. Any other discussion before we move on items that we will continue this discussion next month as far as moving forward with other initiatives. And actually, let me go back for a moment. Let me digress to item number 10 before we finish on issues of public concern regarding the police situation. As people know, last spring, we had a subcommittee that was working on environmental justice and something called the Nature Gap. And Wendy and Wid and Empress, as well as Aaron, put together a panel, and it was held at the John Zahn Center. And there was discussion at the time, as I recall, from people present. An overwhelming number of people wanted to see a follow-up to that. And so this is essentially our second meeting since that time in June. And I wanted to know if we wanted to move forward in any particular way with a follow-up event or communication to the city on our commitment to environmental justice and issues related to the Nature Gap. So for the next 10 minutes, we can talk about that if people are interested. Wendy, did you want to? Yep, I saw your hand go up. There you are. Go ahead.
So, and I'm sorry that I'm not on video. This form came out of something that's very near and dear to my heart, because I feel like we have been abusing nature, and the people that are most susceptible to the abuse that we have done are folks of color and of low economic status, and that access to nature is what heals us. And so I move forward with this human rights orientation of the Nature Gap of environmental justice, and I've learned a lot. And I was touched to see that the community responded, and that the issues that it really touched upon were 3 that people wanted to continue with. One was access to the river. One was access to transportation, public transportation. And the third was access to community voice and having a voice. And people wanted to continue that conversation. I too wanted to continue that conversation. what's happened in the last few months and watching how the mayor has dealt with our community and with this commission in terms of some of the people that have wanted to have a voice on the Human Rights Commission, and she has refused to engage them. These are folks that are marginalized, even if they fall into an apparent majority. I've watched her control what we can say and what we can do. I've watched her step into immediately disregarding a jury that found that our police were practicing racist actions. Rather than looking at it and saying, what can we do? How can we fix it? Her voice was, we will appeal it. And I have continued to watch her disregard what I see as the voice of the people. And being on a Human Rights Commission that needs to respond and answer to her and cannot do the independent work that a Human Rights Commission needs to do is very hard for me to participate in. So I'm not signing up for future things. I am continuing to consider what actions I'm going to take, because it is very difficult to serve under somebody who I feel is doing what she thinks is right, but that's not her job. Her job is to do what the community wants. And I can't serve an autocrat. So that's what I'm working in. That's why I've talked about pushing off some of the things that I've taken. The nature gap is one of them, because I do not expect to continue to be around as a commissioner in the near future. And so I hope that somebody on this commission will pick that up and continue it. But unless I see some serious changes in the behavior of our mayor, I will be writing my letter of resignation. So I hope somebody will pick up the nature gap. I think it is an important issue and an issue that will come to light in the future as things get hotter and access to open water gets more and more restricted. And we seek not to understand each other, but to control each other. So I hope somebody will look to continue that question. That's why I sent out the information that MJ sent out. I think it will be enlightening. I probably will still enroll in the course because it is a passion of mine. So that's what I have to say. Thank you.
Wendy, thank you for that. I know it's heartfelt and it's been on your mind and in your heart for some time now. So I appreciate your sharing that. And at such point as you find it necessary to resign, that will be a sad day for us, but you have to follow your heart on this. I know that. So at this point, I think it remains right now with you stepping out of that role. There are 4 of us still remaining without Irene's presence today and Mackenzie not having shown up for her first meeting. It once again points to the fact that we are this is a concern about not having enough commissioners and being spread very thin, because I know that Empress has now taken on 2 additional assignments of her own choosing. And I know that Philippe and Wid are otherwise employed in other concerns. And I am, because of a family situation, not able to pick up a whole lot more myself. Philippe, I see a hand, so I'll recognize it quickly. Well, that's wonderful and helpful, Philippe. Um, hmm, Not quite sure how best to move forward on this, but I guess my ask of you, Wendy, is would you be willing to have one transitional conversation with Philippe so that he can maybe take this on, take on the leadership role that you had with it?
I
But
would say, thank you, Daniel. I would say absolutely. And just because I would be leaving the Human Rights Commission does not mean that I would not be wanting to be involved or able to be involved and supportive of the movement, because that's the Human Rights Commission gave me a venue, but it is my passion. So my fundamental passion. So absolutely, regardless where I am in that, I'm available.
so I think, thank you for that, Wendy, for extending your yet again, as you have continued to do during your entire time with us.
And can I just say thank you, Philippe? I really appreciate that you see that and that you spoke to it. So that means a lot. I'll do whatever I can to help you succeed.
That is our mission and vision rolled into one moment. Thank you. And so if it's possible for the two of you to talk by phone, however that works, uh, I think that would be wonderful. And Philippe, to the extent that I can, I will support you in moving forward with next steps. I mean, I would be better in a supportive role in this than a lead role.
Don't forget too that WID was very involved in advertising, in showing up. I don't know where he's at right now, but he's a strong silent type, but boy, does he show up.
Well, he's
Yeah,
watching,
but
taking notes, and go ahead, Wid, please.
well, I'm in the same place as Wendy. I'm not sure where my future is going to be, so I'm not going to recommit too much right now because I was going to resign 2 weeks ago and Daniel talked me off the ledge, but I'm still going to wait and see how the stuff plays out in the next month or two, whether I'm going to be still on the HRC or not. So that's where I'm at right now.
All right. Well, I think we have a next step on this, and I appreciate that statement, Wid. I was expecting that tonight as well from you. And I think we need to really take some time now, while we're still in a quorum, to discuss how and what we want to do with regard to any kind of public statement or action or written notification in the newspaper, either as individuals on the commission or as a commission, either way. But I know I have been spoken to over the past several weeks by many people, several dozen people in the community around the issue regarding the reinstatement of the police chief and the mayor's actions. And I have been pressed and pressured to bring this forward to us as a commission to see what, if anything, we are willing to do as an entity in terms of making a statement. I've held off doing so publicly because that's not my role, and it's also not ethical for me in my role as chair to say anything on behalf of the Human Rights Commission without its express voted permission. And that's the same for all of us. We cannot represent this body without being voted on to do so by the body itself. That said, I would like to give some time to whatever people are thinking about a next step, if any, moving forward. Because I need to get back to constituents about what, if anything, we are planning to do, if we plan to do anything. Philippe? Yeah. So you've made an invitation to each party and they have either not responded or responded negatively to, uh-huh, mhm. Okay, Empress, and I'd love to hear from anyone who wants to speak on this beside myself.
Um,
Yeah.
I'm Felipe. You're talking about having like I'm gonna sit down with Chief Hyde, correct? Okay. I could probably help you with the chief. I could definitely help you with the chief because I have a good connection with Chief Gordon, and so you're right. So Chief Gordon was set me up with a meeting with him for last week, but he caught COVID, so yes, but he's recovering. He's fine now. So I mean, if you want, I could send him a little text message on his phone and set you guys up. Okay. But this is, but how would it be? Because that's what you're doing as far as GCTV, correct? That's something you wanted to head at GCTV. So I would be doing right. So I would be doing it for GCTV. Yep. You're welcome.
So if you were to speak, you would be interviewing or I mean, I'm not, and would it be on behalf of GCTV? Or would you seek to serve in your role as the Human Rights Commissioner in meeting with them? I'm not quite sure how you're pitching it at this point, Philippe. It's be helpful to know how they're seeing it and so on. Mhm. Mm. Ju- it's it's so hard to know what's on the record and what's still not because of the appeals process that's going on. And if anyone were to speak about the trial and the appeal, that would be so far out of bounds that I think an arrest could be made in that instance. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, but I think you might find that you have a lot of closed doors in terms of what people can say about what's actually going on other than right.
Is there a gag order in place? Because that can only happen if there is a gag order in place where people are not allowed to speak publicly about a open case. And I don't remember hearing that there was a gag order in place.
Yeah, no, I think what I'm saying is that as far as adding more facts to what's known, no one is entitled or empowered to speak about the appeals process because it's still in litigation. That's my understanding. That's and I've certainly been told that I can't speak about it in my role as a commissioner or as chair of the commission. Wid, you have a hand up, so I'll defer to you. Go ahead.
Well, I assume that Philippe's interview is going to be more of a generic discussion about race and racial discussions and police attitudes towards race, and it wouldn't be specific to this case specifically. You might ask a question or two about the protest and what you thought about that or something, but it's not going to be a down in the dirt discussion about the specific case. It's going to be more of an overview discussion about race in Greenfield and how does the police chief envision the culture change in the future and how is he going to do that. That sort of stuff is a much safer conversation to have than trying to get into the weeds about specifics of the case.
Thank you. Empress? Yeah.
I also seen today, there was a video where Mayor Roxanne and I forgot which commission it was, but I seen it in Transparency for Greenfield. And I know that they're basically Lieutenant Dodge and Chief High, basically they want to come together and to do a session for the council, to have a meeting together for the council. But basically what it is what they want to focus on is how they could move forward and how they want the community to move forward, and like some of the steps they want to take to like improve the police department. That's probably something too, because it seems like they don't want to focus on what happened. They just want to focus on the community and how to build the relations back with the community as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, that discussion's executive session, though. That's an executive session discussion, so no one's going to hear it.
But but I know that they was stuck as far as if they was even going to be an executive session, because I know like some people was like there's no real reason to have an executive session for something like that if you're talking about just moving forward and not so much of the issue that happened. So I watched part of the video, but that seems like that's where a lot of confusion was. Like some people's like, well, why are they even having an executive session about it if they're talking about how to move forward? Because they don't really want to touch on what happened. They just want to like build a community and build the policing back and build the department and the trust in the department back. So I'm just saying that as another focal point. That if Felipe want to use that as far as to focus on ways that like they want to move forward in the community and some of the things that they have, in mind of how to create that trust and the relationship back into the community that was damaged because of what happened, without touching on that topic.
Well, let me just say, and then Wid, you can speak again. Philippe, I hope that this conversation is useful to you. Okay, and moving forward with maybe how to proceed or what to proceed with, or where there might be potential roadblocks or where it's more open. And I hope that they would both be open to a direct invitation. I heard someone speak just momentarily, I can't remember who it was, about whether or not we should invite them to one of our next meetings. And have them speak to us as well. I don't know if I heard that correctly, or if that was an afterthought or something we should pursue. Back to you, Philippe. Yeah. Good. Okay. Okay, good. And then I'm glad I raised it, and I'm glad that you found the direction. Wid, you had a hand up. Did you want to?
Hands up. Well, I think we're running out of time, so I think we should go back to your original question about what does the HRC want to do between now and next meeting, if anything, regarding all the feedback you were getting from the community.
Right. I do want to know. I mean, I want to be guided, at least in part, by what people here have to say. As a commission, I know I'm on my own if I want to do anything as an individual, as we all are, and I may well do that. But I do want to know if there's anything we want to do jointly. I hear Philippe saying, he's going to do something as a GCTV staffer, but is there anything we want to do as a collective group that focuses on human rights in our community and how they may have been abridged through this process with the mayor? Any other thoughts on that at this point? Okay. Wendy, I see a hand up.
Yeah, I guess the only other piece that I would add, and I love what you're talking about doing, Philippe, and I look at this group, Public Budget. Was that their name, Daniel?
The Greenfield People's Budget.
People's Budget. They've done some phenomenal work. And they're younger folks, they're activists. They've got questions. And so my one piece, and I would love to see somehow the Human Rights Commission supporting what Philippe does with this conversation. And I think that it's important to have the other side have the questions, maybe even before you talk with the mayor and the chief, so that you can pose those questions and make sure that both voices are really getting heard. Because people are saying that there aren't that many voices that are against the reinstatement. And what I will say is that I recognize, even for myself, when I was coming into town, that I recognized that I was making myself more vulnerable. This isn't protesting against, the mayor or a belief or whatever. This is protesting against police who have the guns, right? And this is what folks of color have been saying for a long time. So I think that we need to be careful to make sure that we give equal voice and have those questions that are being raised asked. And I think it's important that the Human Rights Commission has some involvement in this question. I don't know what that involvement, what y'all want to do, but to me, the mayor is not listening to a large part of her constituency, and she is doing what she wants to do. And in doing so, she is violating the sense of security and equality of people of color in this community and people not of color in this community.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's appropriate that somehow the Human Rights Commission stand up to that and stand up to the mayor in this, even if the mayor is not happy about it, because we do serve by her pleasure. And that's all I have to say right now, anyway.
I'm sure there'll be more. Thank you, Wendy. Wid, your hand is up. Wid?
Well, that's why, going back to the earlier discussion about making sure that at least one commissioner is on the task force, would at least give us a voice in those discussions. And I would see it as a task force member to really represent the HRC, almost as a neutral seat, where people, some of the commissioners, some of the counselors and some of the people brought in from the community are going to have their own agenda. But if an HRC commissioner is part of that task force, they can really represent the HRC perspective, I would think.
Empress, thank you, Wid. And I'd like to make that into a motion if we want to. Empress,
Exactly. And to piggyback on what Wid says, as far as the task force goes, as far as having the HRC, somebody to represent the commission, being the voice of the commission, that means that the commission is in solidarity and unity with that one message, and that everybody is saying the same thing. I don't think that's where we are yet. I don't, because I sent you an email about how I felt about it. And then Felipe's dealing with it a different, everybody's dealing with it their way. So therefore, if you're having a voice, the voice has to be a universal voice for all of us, because once you go out there and you're saying you're representing us, then that means what you're saying, that's what we're all saying.
Frozen.
Am I frozen?
You were for a moment, and now you unfrozen yourself.
I agree with Empress. I agree with you.
So therefore, right. So therefore, we have to be very careful about the messaging and what we're saying, and making sure that the person, if somebody was to do that, it had that they represent the whole commission, and that the code commission has come together and agreed on a message that we want to put out there.
I personally think you're absolutely right on that. But let's, I see Wid and then Wendy, we can just kind of see where people sit on that. It was mentioned
Yeah, I
earlier.
agree. We don't even have to cross that bridge until we see if it's approved and an HRC member was assigned to the task force. Then we could meet as a commission and have, our objectives for that one representative. Yes, yes,
Good.
definitely.
I think it's a next step further out there. And I agree with you, Empress. I think trying to get agreement on what we think about things that we don't even know about is going to be pretty difficult. Because I think there are many voices and we're not at all on the same page. And we may not even be reading the same book at the moment. We simply don't know. Wendy, your hand is up, and then I'm going to have to bring us to closure pretty quickly.
I think it's a very important point, and I would say that regardless whether or not that task force happens, that's an important conversation that the commissioners need to have. And that might be a conversation that we advertise we're having, because it's probably reflective of what's going on in the community. But I think it's an important conversation to have, to see where do people really sit and why do people really sit. And if we can model that kind of conversation with the differences that are sure to come up, we may not come up with one voice, but we'll come up with some level of understanding beyond what we started with. So I would propose that be, at least a half an hour discussion on the next agenda of what is the sense of what's going on with our police and what's the sense of what the HRC should be doing about it. What is our role?
That was the intention tonight, to have some discussion about just that, item number 9. And I'm not sure that we've scratched the surface. We've scratched it, but we haven't really gone into more depth, which we'll need to do. But when we come back together next month, we will know a lot more than we know now. And the situation will be different than it is now in ways that we can both imagine and not imagine. So I think it's just a question of keeping our ears to the ground and our hearts connected to our community and to ourselves and each other. Wid and Wendy, is your hand up again?
Yes, it is.
Okay, so Wid and then Wendy.
Do you have any sense of when this task force is going to come to fruition? Is this months away or weeks away, or do you have any sense of what the mayor's?
I don't. I know part of it is contingent on funding from the city council.
So it sounds like we have time. We don't have to make a motion tonight then, Daniel. If it sounds like it's at least a month away. So, and I'm sure Aaron might mention this discussion to the mayor during one of his supervision meetings, that at least we are interested in being involved in the task force if offered a chance.
Right. And I do want to say, if people want to come to the next city council meeting, it's an open meeting on the 21st, which is a Wednesday. And I've received a slew of invitations, not just for me, but for anyone else who wants to come. I think it's going to be a fairly impactful meeting. And I would hope that I'm not the only commissioner there, but it rolls as it rolls. Where's
the meeting gonna be, Daniel?
It's at the John Zahn Center. Is that correct?
Okay.
That's my understanding. And I think it also may be virtual. Aaron, is that accurate information from what you know?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. And what time do they start? Is it 6:30? Aaron? Is that the time of the next meeting on the 21st? I'd have to look at my calendar. Yes, you'll be there. Of course you'll be there. And they often run till 9:30 before they go into executive session, if they do.
So Daniel, I have my hand up.
Yes, please.
And the one thing that I'm wondering is if it might not be appropriate to call, given what's going on in town, if it might not be appropriate to call another meeting in between now and the next meeting, especially since we're pushing another meeting off another week. And at least if there's an agreement to do that, if there's enough that was left undone here,
Mhm.
that and if Empress's group gets together and has, you know, something, I mean, there are lots of different options, but I think that meeting in between now and then makes sense given what's going on and given that we're going into winter.
I would like to support that. I think it's critical that we've got many things happening, and an hour, 2 hours once a month is often not enough to really get into the depth that we need. And, you know, especially while we're in our own transition, I don't know if we called an extra meeting, if Wendy or Whit, if you'd continue to be with us or not. And so there's always the issue of quorum. But to the point that there's a lot that we have to discuss and think about, I would like to agree and suggest that we consider October 3rd as a meeting date, and that we move the meeting from the 10th to the 17th as our regular meeting. Or we could decide to move it up and make it the 3rd and not do one on the 17th. That's another way to think about it, and meet in 3 weeks as opposed to 5 weeks. So we have a couple of options that we should discern while we have 5 of us still able to vote as a quorum. Do we want to have 2 meetings, or do we want to move up the meeting from the 17th to the 3rd and have 1 meeting then? Whit?
Well, I'm not sure if Empress and Irene's got enough time to do anything for that October 3rd meeting, because Irene mentioned she's going to be out of town until October 3rd. So it wouldn't be a regular meeting if we were going to address the housing part of it.
That's true. That's true.
But there are other, sorry.
Philippe and then Wendy. Yeah.
Wendy.
Okay. Thank you for that. Wendy?
Yeah, I guess, you know, I look at it as a placeholder. So we wouldn't be talking about housing, but maybe we have more information about what's going on with the police. Maybe we've got more, maybe the public, the people's budget wants to talk. I just think that there's enough going on, and we haven't even talked about the environmental issues with the Lund property
Right.
and how the mayor is dealing with that. And the human rights, again, it goes to the right to have clean water and a safe place to live. So I guess I just feel like if we agreed to a placeholder and we saw what bubbled up between now and then, there certainly is enough, especially since there's a city council meeting on the 21st.
Mm-hmm.
If we don't need it, we don't need it, but it probably wouldn't be housing. It would be all
Right.
the other things we didn't get to.
Right. So in the form of a proposal, just to move us forward, since it's already 8:02, can I propose that we schedule a meeting for October 3rd, in addition to moving our regular meeting to October 17th, and that we make a decision the week before October 3rd, whether or not it's necessary to meet, but have that, as Wendy said, as a placeholder. So that's my proposal. Second, okay. Any further discussion? I'm not trying to ram this through, but wanting to finish before we run out.
I'll third it.
Thanks, Erica. I can appreciate your support of our efforts. All right, well, let's bring that to a vote. Again, the idea is to have an additional meeting on the 3rd and move our regular meeting to the 17th and make a decision about the 3rd the week before. So all in favor, I guess let's raise hands, okay? All in favor of doing as suggested, and that is unanimous. Okay. So that's what we'll do, and I will send a note to Caitlin tomorrow and let her know that that's what we're going to be doing, so that we can claim a Zoom line. for both dates. And I think we're ready to conclude our meeting. We're ready to new business. Geez. Wow, did I miss that? You had one, Philippe. Oh my goodness. All right, please, and I know it's about the movie theater. Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there a motion you want to make as we close on that, or Isaac? Yep. I think that's still 3.5 weeks before the actual show. It's the premiere itself, which is October 28th. If we meet on the 3rd, that's still 25 days in advance. I would second that. I would second that and then table the discussion to the 3rd. So that's a second. So there's a motion. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, everybody just think about how we could help Isaac with this. Can we get a school? Can we get the school involved? Have kids come? Maybe someone who wrote a book report on too. Anything like that. But we do have plenty of time.
Yeah.
And you can give Isaac a heads up that we are interested.
Felipe.
Is that a hand waving, Empress?
Yes, it is. Felipe. I might be interested in writing a My Turn article for Isaac. Well, for the recorder.
Excellent.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to bring this up on the 3rd, and I guess Philippe, if you want to report to Isaac that we did discuss, and it's going to come forward as an action item in 3 weeks, and we'll know then what we would recommend and what we'll do. Okay. All right. So thanks for raising that again. Poor time management on my part. My apologies. It's 8:08, and I would like to entertain a motion to adjourn.
I second.
Okay.
I third.
All right, and I'll high five it. Whit, are you in for an adjournment? All right. Well, I'm going to conclude this meeting of the Human Rights Commission, 8:09 p.m. And on Monday, September 12th. And we'll look forward to seeing everyone again on October 3rd. And thank you so much for staying overtime. Be safe and all the best to everyone.